We run our programs here at North Valley much like a shop runs their programs, where our students understand what a customer's wants are and then take those conversations and create a product with them. And then we have to work with customers to make sure they're satisfied. And I think that's something that takes learning to a different level. The North Valley students have a lot of life to them. They're excited, they're energetic to be here. We have teachers that have 25 years of industry experience before they come into the classroom to teach, so they know what it looks like in industry, and that's very important to our students. I know the work we do is very important. Students don't know what they don't know. In order to get them understanding what the future might hold for them, we have to get them out in the workforce and show them what opportunities there are. And so it's very important for us to provide opportunities for them to see what is out there.
You're learning firsthand what it is to do your job. And when you're learning from somebody who's been in the trade for years, that experience that you're getting from them, probably one of the biggest benefits that a student can get out of here.
I believe strongly in career and tech ed. I believe strongly in students. I've seen the needs of the workforce, so I believe that career and tech ed is a critical part of education for all students as they come through their schooling.
My experience at North Valley is something that I don't think I would have experienced anywhere else. I recently just got a full-time offer a year before I graduate from UND, and that wouldn't have been possible without North Valley.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, Work-Based Learning as a Talent Pipeline. We have amazing participation today, over 400 people registered. That's fantastic. We really appreciate everyone for taking the time to learn more about this tremendous opportunity. Work-based learning is an educational strategy that offers students an opportunity to reinforce and deepen their classroom learning, explore future career fields, demonstrate, and even further develop their skills in an authentic setting. My name is Patrick Bertnoli, Executive Director, Job Service North Dakota, and I'll be your host today. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping items to cover. We have muted the chat and microphones during this webinar to provide you with the best experience. Upon conclusion of our presentations, we will open the chat for your questions, comments, and feedback. We also understand and respect that not all of you may be comfortable submitting your questions in this format. As a courtesy, we will also be providing an email address at the end where you can submit your questions, comments, and feedback in more of a private setting. Over the course of the next week or so, we will summarize all Q&A and we will distribute that information to all participants attending today's session. Although we are recording our webinar today, SHRM recertification credits will only be available to those attending our live webinar. North Dakota SHRM will be sharing that code soon for those of you seeking credit. For our objective today, the state's role is to bring education leaders and employers together to create a well-prepared, competitive workforce, and work-based learning is just one way you can supplement your overall talent management strategy and increase your talent pipeline. Work-based learning is a proactive approach where you can influence the workforce of tomorrow. We are excited to offer you this information-packed webinar to help your organization. With our speaker lineup, we will cover the critical components of this often underutilized pipeline. We'll provide you with information to navigate the legal regulations and mitigate risk, and also provide a demonstration of the work-based learning module to further connect you and your organization to students. I'll be introducing each of our speakers for their respective presentations, so let's get started. First up, we have Wade Sick. Wade has been involved in education and workforce development for over 20 years. His first role with the state of North Dakota was as the Workforce Division Director for the North Dakota Department of Commerce. In May of 2018, he was named the State Director for the Department of Career and Technical Education, CTE. Prior to serving for the state, Wade was employed with Burdick Job Corps Center in Minot from 2003 to 2011, where he served as an academic instructor, CTE manager, and the Deputy Center Director. Wade has a bachelor's degree in social science education and a master's degree in management, both from Minot State University. Wade, welcome to the webinar. Thank you for being a partner in this, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, well, thank you, Pat. As Pat mentioned, my name is Wade Sick. I'm the State Director for the Department of Career and Technical Education. NDCTE is the state agency that approves, funds, and provides technical assistance to the career and technical education programs that are offered by our high schools, our area career and technology centers, community colleges, and our tribal colleges. But what is career and technical education? This is simply the coursework and programming that is provided at our schools, area career and technology centers, colleges, etc., that specializes in skilled trades, applied sciences, modern technologies, and career preparation. It is a combination of classroom work, lab and shop time, and includes opportunities to apply skills learned out in the community. CTE in North Dakota and across the country is broad. You will see the various program areas that are offered in the state of North Dakota. Our high schools, CTE and CTE centers, our students have access to agricultural education, health sciences, trade and industry, business education, family and consumer science, marketing, information technology, and STEM, also known as technology and engineering. Even within these programs, there are diverse career pathways for students to explore and consider. Many of the instructors in CTE classrooms, labs, and shops come from classroom. They have knowledge and they are eager to pass it on to the next generation of workforce. So for the last few years, the Department of Career and Technical Education has worked hard to provide resources to local schools and CTE centers to build work-based learning programs with their local employer partners. You'll hear more about those resources later in the webinar. We've put the responsibility on local CTE programs to build awareness and to build those partnerships. They have done a phenomenal job. But the intent of this webinar is for the department to partner with its partners, Job Service North Dakota, Department of Labor, Work and WSI, to bring a broader awareness to our business and industry community. Work-based learning is an excellent opportunity. Now, the definition of work-based learning, according to the U.S. Department of Education and the Strengthening Career and Technical Education Act in the 21st century, also known as Perkins 5, is a sustained interaction with industry or community professionals in a real workplace setting. In other words, allowing a student the opportunity to apply and expand upon the skills that they learned in their CTE program outside the walls of their school. Now, if a community does not have a wealth of opportunities, options still exist in the form of a simulated work-based learning experience. Work-based learning is an innovative way to attract talent. I believe we as employers often wait for the finished product to start recruiting. Students have already graduated from high school, they've graduated from college before they're considered a candidate. But by engaging students while they are still in high school, an employer can be a part of the education process, helping the education system adjust to better prepare students for the workplace. An employer can have direct input on what skills students need in order to be prepared. An employer can help students find relevance in their educational careers by helping them connect the dots between what they're learning in every classroom and in every lab and why that education is vital for their future career. You can help create aha moments. This can also increase productivity because when students come out of high school and post-secondary better prepared for the workforce, they can hit the ground running. If an employer is a part of the education process and students are familiar with what they do, they may be more engaged employees earlier in employment. They would have awareness in the company brand and the culture. Could you please back up one slide? Thank you. Now, work-based learning is not a new concept. Below are examples of current work-based learning experiences. This is happening in North Dakota right now, and it's happening and it's being done well. Again, the intent of this webinar is to provide broader awareness so that every student across the state of North Dakota has access to work-based learning experiences, and every employer across the state of North Dakota knows how to partner with our education system. Examples of the different types of work-based learning are for face-to-face, a cooperative work experience, a supervised agricultural experience directly tied to our agricultural education programs, internships, apprenticeships, or an employer placement, which is part of a course. Students are earning high school credit while doing these activities and also earning or working on their employability skills. A simulated work-based learning experience is there in case the option of placing with employer does not exist. A construction project, whether that's a house, a shed, a cabin, developing business plans or marketing plans, working with an employer and developing that, various virtual events, or a school-based enterprise such as a school-run store or an IT help desk. Next slide. So we want our students to be evaluated while they're out on their placements. So we ask employers to give feedback. What you see on the screen are the 5 career-ready practices that we have selected to use as an evaluation of students when they are out on a work-based learning experience. You'll notice that only one of those 5 standards are based actually on technical skills. We want students to understand that technical skills are vitally important, but it's not all that you need in order to be successful as a new employee out in the workplace. You need to be a responsible employee. You need to be able to problem solve. You need to be able to work on a team, and you need to be able to communicate, as well as having those technical skills. As I mentioned earlier, if students learn these skills while they are employed or enrolled in a career and technical education program in their high school or CTE center, they can practice and improve these skills on the work-based learning experience. Employers can improve efficiencies by having future employees more prepared, which in turn can cut down on training costs. Next slide. In addition to work-based learning, there are many options for employers to get engaged and involved in career and technical education. Employers can become guest speakers. They can conduct field trips. They can attend career fairs, just to name a few options. But a very impactful option can be to become a part of an industry advisory committee. An industry advisory committee consists of individuals with experience and expertise in the occupations a CTE program can lead to. The role of the committee is to assess the CTE program, make suggestions for improvement to better align with industry needs, and assist in activities such as competitive skills events and help promote CTE programs throughout the community. These committees currently exist across the state. Reach out to your local school, CTE center, or community college to get engaged, or contact me directly and I'll help you get connected. Next slide. To close, I just want to say that access to CTE continues to grow in North Dakota. The current centers and high schools continue to diversify the CTE offerings available to our students. In the 2021 legislative session, funding was appropriated to the Department of Career Tech Ed to provide grants that provide more access to CTE centers, and the legislature continued to show its support in the 23 session. What you see on the screen is the access or the scope that our current CTE centers provide. This will only continue to grow as our new and expanding centers come to fruition. Also, you will see that our high schools across North Dakota are providing CTE to our students. Along with this programming, all North Dakota students K through 12, approximately 130,000 students, have access to the state-funded career exploration platform called Are You Ready ND. This platform provides age-appropriate career exploration resources for all its students. Within Are You Ready ND is the Compass Profile. This is available to all our high school students and our college students. You will learn more about Compass Profile later in the webinar, but this is the resource, this is the tool that will help employers find students, enabling work-based learning connections to occur. It is truly an exciting time for career and technical education in the state of North Dakota. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to our next speaker.
Thank you, Wade. You provided some great information, and I know the employers attending today are looking for talent, and work-based learning is just another tool in their toolbox. This is an excellent opportunity for all employers to get engaged with students while strengthening their communities. Building those relationships now and staying engaged with students allows you to not only influence the workforce of tomorrow, but also build your talent pipeline. Studies have shown that 60% of internships turn into a full-time employee. Your involvement now will only support your workforce needs in the future by investing in these students as we work together to retain them in the great state of North Dakota. Our next speaker is Dawn Ulmer. Dawn has been working with CTE in a variety of educational roles since 1991. While in South Dakota, she worked for Northwest Area Schools as a teacher, grant writer, and school-to-work coordinator for 8 rural South Dakota schools. After moving to Bismarck in 2012, she began teaching at Shiloh Christian School, developing a distance learning program and setting the groundwork for a work-based learning program. Dawn was hired by ND, North Dakota Career and Technical Education, to be the strategic project manager in June of 2021. Dawn, welcome to the webinar, and I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am grateful for your interest in North. I would like to also thank our agency partners for joining us to address workforce shortages in North Dakota and expand career opportunities for our young people. Collaboration between state agencies demonstrates how intentionally we work to bridge the gap between business and education. North Dakota CTE has been developing industry recognized skills and fostering work experiences for decades. So they have become quite the champion in this area. And with this new focus on work-based learning, our state will create a sustainable partnership to help fill workforce needs while developing a career mindset in our youth. We understand the challenges you face with recruiting talent, training employees, and retaining a quality workforce. With this in mind, we provide resources to help fill your short-term workforce needs and also provide a long-term recruitment system or a talent pipeline. So by now, I'm sure you're wondering, how can CTE help you? As already mentioned, North Dakota students are participating in CTE courses across the state, learning valuable skills in a hands-on interactive learning environment. North Dakota CTE developed a plan to train and endorse work-based learning coordinators across the state, facilitating the integration of workplace skills in the educational system. This will benefit both employers and students. I would like to take just a little time to emphasize how work-based learning coordinators can help you. They have special skills to navigate communication between educators and employers. They are not required to have teaching certificates or a teaching background, but we do want them to know what it takes to succeed in our state's vital industries. We will often mention work-based learning coordinators or designated educational professional because although we already have many endorsed coordinators, not all schools have hired one at this point. But there always will be somebody who you can contact if you have questions about work-based learning. The CTE work-based learning page on our site has a document that includes the location of our work-based learning coordinators. We will have the link later on in my slides. If you have ever have questions about work-based learning or need to know who to contact, please contact us. We can help you find the right person. Connecting with a work-based learning coordinator is essential as they open communication with employers, educators, parents, and students. They make sure students are prepared for the workplace, monitor and supervise the experience, ensure each experience is beneficial both for the employer and the student. Work-based learning coordinators will go over the necessary forms and review a plan with you. Their job is to make it easier for you to become involved. They will help you feel more comfortable and save time. And they will also learn to listen to your suggestions and concerns. Work-based learning coordinators will discuss how to handle situations you may encounter and help you through the process. We believe this is vital for an excellent experience. They will make sure students know ahead of time that they must behave professionally and follow the guidelines set up by the employer in order to keep their position. Your involvement in work-based learning will help you find young people to fill positions, save time and expense on training, recruiting, and building sustainable relationships. We are helping you provide training for the next generation of young people who will be filling your positions. Another essential resource, as Wade mentioned, is the Are You Ready career platform and the work-based learning module, which Julie and Patrick will discuss later in our presentation. So you won't want to miss this. Stay with us all the way to the end. Job services has become very helpful in this whole process. Their business advisors have gone through the work-based learning best practices training, and they have resources to help you as well. We would also be willing to work with you and help train employers so that they know the best practices for setting up a work-based learning experience. CTE concentrators complete hands-on training with CTE instructors for up to 2 years. So if you're wondering what the CTE students have to offer, this is just one of the many things. They are developing industry-recognized skills which allow you as employers to connect with talented youth who have already begun to develop skills and are being prepared for the workforce. Prior experience means they qualify as a student learner, which is important for employers who employ people under the age of 18. This topic will also be addressed later in our webinar. It doesn't mean that only CTE students can participate in a work-based learning experience, but we do want to recognize that the CTE concentrators offer special talents that can be used for work-based learning experiences. Work-based learning students have an interest and a passion for the career, and they have leadership skills as well. This allows you to develop a talent pipeline with enthusiastic and engaged youth who will bring new energy, new ideas, and new perspective to the workplace. These students have already begun to develop skills and prepare themselves for the future workplace, so they are engaged. This generation of student learners is technologically savvy. We have listened to a variety of business panels who share their success stories, and many have discussed how the students have taught them how to market their businesses better with social media. They have creative new ideas that can reach a new customer base and create excitement about your business. The student learners will also be able to train with you for a minimum of 40 hours, learning more about your business. This training turns into a new hire, or it can offer just an chance to get to know the students better. And you can see how much time you will be saving when you have the opportunity to train students and get to know them through this process. Students are receiving high school credit. They take the job seriously, and you are acquiring a better understanding of the future workforce. Student learners are researching careers, which inspire them to enthusiastically pursue work-based learning opportunities. This, in turn, incentivizes them to stay in local communities in the state of North Dakota. So by training student learners and filling positions short-term, you are helping provide long-term talent pipelines. So to give you a picture of what this looks like, the work-based learning trainer is trained by CTE. They reach out and collaborate with employers and educators. They prepare students for the workplace. They monitor progress and provide mentorship. And this all turns into quality work-based learning experiences that develop a sustainable talent pipeline and bridge the gap between business and education. We are building resources on our website under the work-based learning page. Among these resources, you will find work-based learning guidance containing several sample forms that the work-based learning coordinators may use, such as training agreements, insurance forms, parent consent, student birth date, age, contact information. These forms are customized for each specific area of the state, and the work-based learning coordinator will review them with you. You don't ever feel like you're out on your own for this part. We have created an employer web work-based learning toolkit as well, which will guide you through creating a work-based learning plan for your company, creating competency lists and training assessments, and helping you recruit qualified candidates. Managing the student learner, monitoring the progress, and discussing legal issues are all subjects that are covered on our toolkit. We know there is a lot of information, but really the steps to get involved are simple. If you would like to spend less time recruiting and training employees who may not work out, this is a great long-term optional choice for you. Beginning with working with work-based learning coordinators and educators will give you consistent access to valuable workers. Here's just a few simple steps. You can complete the employer login in Compass and join the Employer Connections database. Patrick Manier is going to give you more details on this process later. Feel free to contact a work-based learning coordinator before you start the process if you would like to just visit about some of your options. After this, you will review our work-based learning employer toolkit to get ideas of what you want the work-based learning to look like in your business. You can review student applications on the work-based learning module. You can meet with a work-based learning coordinator and with the students to discuss training goals, policies, and competencies. You can do all of these steps will help you to provide a training program for your business and for the student. We are willing to work with you to solve the problems of workforce shortages in North Dakota. Thank you so much for your interest in work-based learning. I can tell you from experience that becoming a part of a young person's life brings great satisfaction. We appreciate you. Thank you once again to our state agency partners for working with us to bridge the gap between business and education permanently. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. North Dakota CTE has a work-based learning program designed to provide you, the employer, with the tools and training you need to bridge the gap between business and education. Their program will give you the opportunity to build a sustainable workforce recruitment system while enhancing career opportunities for our youth. Our next speaker is Phil Davis. Phil is a native North Dakotan. He retired from the Air Force after 21 years, and in 2007, he was hired as an industry liaison with Job Service North Dakota. In 2008, he was promoted to Customer Service Area Manager for Central and Western North Dakota, and in 2018, he was promoted to the Workforce Services Director, overseeing all daily operations for all 9 workforce centers and the agency's workforce programs throughout the state. Phil has a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration and Aviation Safety from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida. Phil, thanks for joining us today, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Pat. I appreciate that. And welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Before I jump into our youth employment training program, I thought it'd be a good idea just to kind of take a step back and update everybody where we're at as far as job openings and career opportunities across North Dakota. You know, it's truly up to all of us. And when I do say all of us, I mean industry, employers, government, schools, and parents to really teach and inform our youth of all the great opportunities across North Dakota. So at the end of June, we had close to 14, if you could advance the slide, please. At the end of June, we had close to 14,000 openings here in our great state. And as far as you're thinking 14,000, but we've heard the governor say there could be 30,000. We've heard him say 40,000. I think what he's implying there is our number 14,000, but I always use an example of my brother and sister-in-law who own a trucking business in South Central North Dakota. They're always looking for CDL drivers, but they list one position with us, Job Service North Dakota. But I do know if they had 2 or even 3 qualified CDL drivers walk through their doors today, they would hire them. I think that's where the governor's getting his 30,000 plus openings. While I've been in job service, like Pat said, I think I've just went over my 16-year mark here. Healthcare has always been number one, and I think it'll continue to be that. We have close to 2,600 openings in healthcare, and if you add the support to healthcare, we're talking probably about 3,100 openings. The next in line, of course, is sales, management, transportation, and installation and maintenance, round out the top 5. But throughout the year, you're going to see the bottom 4 kind of flip-flop. In the early spring, we saw extraction and construction occupations listed here as number 2. We've seen transportation number 3 at times. We've seen farming and fishing opportunities in the spring in the top 5. So you just never know as far as the bottom 4 of the top 5 go there. But one thing I'd like to key in here is just with some of the education and wages that we're seeing, almost 50% of the openings on our website, jobsnd.com, require a high school diploma or higher. Almost 39% requires a bachelor's degree. And if we even broke that down a little bit further, a master's degree or higher constitute about 15%. Wages, as we all know, we've seen wages climb over the last couple of years, especially since COVID. With the openings on our website, we're seeing, about 39% of all openings are $30 or more. The typical average annual wage in the state of North Dakota is about $60,000 now throughout the state. One thing I just want to share a quick story on that is recently we had a hiring event in one of our workforce centers, and it was a retail employer came in, and they couldn't figure out why they weren't attracting more workforce, and they had about 15 openings for customer service reps. Well, we found out that they were only offering $10 an hour. So as employers out there, it's always a good idea to give our labor market information a look. Hey, where are you at as far as paying with wages? Give one of our business services folks a call, or one of our managers in the workforce centers. So let's move on to our employment and training program. For us, this is a year-long program. It's obviously as a state agency, but we are federally funded, and this is one of our federal employment and training programs. It's called the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, or WIOA for short. And in this particular case today, we're talking about our youth program, and that's primarily for 16 to 24-year-olds. Our program, of course, like I said, it's year-round, and once those youth are enrolled with us, we obviously encourage the youth to complete their secondary education. We want them to have that high school diploma, or at the very least obtain that GED. And from there, we enroll them into some type of post-secondary education and take advantages of the wonderful opportunities they have with our two-year colleges here across our great state. And if maybe that's not the case for them, they don't want to go to college, that's fine. We still then try to scoot them over into like a short-term advanced training like CNA, or it could be a 12-week welding class into the workforce, or even CDL if that fits them and they're right as far as their age goes. Obviously, our end goal is to enter them into some unsubsidized employment leading to self-sufficiency. Our program truly removes the barriers to employment, such as being on an individual education plan, or maybe it's a single mom who had to drop out of high school to take care of her newborn. Or maybe it's somebody that has had some type of justice involved background. Those are the kids and the youth that we primarily have in our program. And, like my boss, Pat, says, Phil, we need everybody to get off the bench and into the workforce. And he's completely right. We do try to focus on the youth who have, like I said before, dropped out of high school or transitioning between that high school and college, or into that short-term training. But we do also concentrate on our in-school youth. For us, referrals are critical. We work with high schools, colleges, employers, and of course, our workforce partners in adult learning centers, the vocational rehabilitation centers across the state, and of course, our tribal partners are always very close to what we're doing. I just kind of want to give an example too of what we're seeing, or an example of what we had here in Bismarck. And a high school counselor called us one day, and this was a couple years ago. But this is something that happens every day. And she had a student who was on an individual education plan, and that student obviously qualified for our WIOA program. So we were able to set up a paid in a summer work experience for that individual. And he was interested in going into being some type of mechanic, preferably a diesel mechanic. So we set him up with a paid work experience here in Bismarck. And then we were able to pay for his 2-year college as a diesel mechanic at North Dakota State College of Science. And from there, that ultimately led to full-time employment as a diesel tech at a heavy equipment dealer right here in Bismarck. So I just want to kind of paint that picture as I get more into looking at the work experience and how job service can assist with that. Next slide, please. So with our work experience, in order for us to be a part of that, and when I say us, job service, to be part of the WIOA work experience and the WBL experience, a student must apply and be granted into our WIOA program. We have to determine that they are eligible, and we're simply there just following federal law. As I said before when I started this, this is a federal training program. So if you as an employer are talking to a student and you believe they meet one of those, type of barriers to employment, like I was talking about before, an IEP, or maybe they were justice involved, or whatever it may be, we want to talk to them. Please send them to us. We want to enroll them into this program. And again, we're working with those individuals. Our program is set up for spring, summer, and fall, and it normally lasts 3 to 4 months. But a year-long experience is something that is not out of the ordinary either. Now, the best part as an employer, and I can't stress this enough, but job service will pay the first 25 hours of the work experience per week. Okay, and we also cover the workers' comp. So if you as an employer is working with a student and you believe they might have some type of barriers to employment, please give us a call. Give one of our workforce centers a call, and we'll help you out as far as paying for that work experience. And again, it's a great fit. What we're talking about, what we just heard from our friends from CT talk about. But our program is really based on providing that platform for career exploration while developing those type of work readiness skills. So let's take a look at a couple of examples that as far as work experiences go. Over the past couple of years, we've had students and youth working at child care centers where they've assisted with daily activities. We had a student recently as a videographer and editor at a small production company in Grand Forks. We've also had students working as dietary aides and being part of serving meals at maybe it's a long-term care facility at one of our local hospitals. And this is a great example here of really diving into and realizing, is the healthcare industry for me? Another great example of a work experience. But the one I'm most proud of is right here. We had a work experience right here at Job Service North Dakota recently. And we had a young lady, a single mom, come to us through one of our other programs, and we were able to enroll her into WIOA, and from there into a work experience. And we had her doing the work experience right in one of our workforce centers. And she worked out so great that we ended up hiring her as a full-time employee. And now she's one of our rising stars in our agency. She is part of our social media team, and she works with customers on a daily basis, helping them out with job seeking, with resume building, and with cover letters, anything like that she does in our resource room. And we can't be more proud of her. So that's just a couple of experiences that I'd like to note, and maybe that fits in what you're looking at. So I just want to recap also our 4 main goals in our youth employment training program is obviously completing their education, as secondary, post-secondary, developing those job readiness skills, and to provide that career exploration. Employment, obviously employment is number one here. And then what's kind of unique to our program is our case managers, as long as these students are enrolled in WIOA, we provide support and continue follow-up for a year after they're employed. And that's very key to this program. But at this time, I'd just like to acknowledge some of the other youth and workforce programs that as an employer you should be considering. I look at the North Dakota Department of Commerce Operation Intern. The Grand Forks area has Career Conversations. There's various job shadow programs all across our great state. And of course, we could probably have 2 or 3 webinars on the different apprenticeship programs throughout the state of North Dakota. So as an employer, please take a look at some of those programs and take advantage of them. So with all that said, we do have a little bit of fun here at Job Service. We have our own podcast, and we affectionately have dubbed it the Job Pod, and it's hosted by one of our very talented workforce center managers, Mr. Dusty Hillebrand, who's based out of Grand Forks. Dusty has, over the last about 2 years now, has recorded 57 podcasts, and from that, we've had 2,200 downloads. The podcasts have covered everything such as manufacturing, healthcare, information technology, career and tech ed, internships, UAS systems, military, and that's just to name a few. The last episode that Dusty recorded was tips for youth entering the workforce. Dusty sat down with the owner of the East Grand Forks Movie Theater, and they discussed why does she have a full-time staff? Why is she, or why and how has she built the right culture? She discusses pay. She discusses trust and teaching environment and everything she's provided to her students and youth that make up her workforce. And they also share a couple humorous examples of youth and their first job. So please give that a listen. Our podcast can be found at jobsnd.com. Or again, you can follow the link on the bottom of this slide. So please give that a listen. And by the way, Dusty is always looking for a new guest. Maybe it's a new employer to the state of North Dakota. Maybe it's emerging industry or whatever it may be. So if you're interested in that, give Pat or myself a call and we'll line you up with Dusty. So Pat, back to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Phil, for the great information and reminders about all the career opportunities throughout North Dakota. With almost 14,000 job openings, there is vast opportunity for employers to connect with their communities and engage with students. We also appreciate the information on the WIOA program and how that is a great fit for individuals who need extra opportunity in obtaining employment to experience the world of work-based learning. Bill shared some examples of current students who are undergoing real-life work experiences along with their education. As exciting as it is to see our future workforce exploring these opportunities, we understand the hesitation employers may feel due to wanting to be compliant with child labor laws and to mitigate risks for your organization. We've leveraged the expertise and knowledge of our next two presenters to alleviate concerns you may have about getting involved with work-based learning. With that, next up, we have Nathan Syhovic. Nathan is a native of Watford City, North Dakota, and served for 8 years with the North Dakota Army National Guard. In November of 2022, he was appointed the North Dakota Labor Commissioner. Prior to this appointment, he served as an attorney with a Bismarck-based law firm representing and advising employers and employees. Nathan previously served as an Assistant Attorney General for the North Dakota Office of Attorney General from 2017 to 2020. He earned an associate degree from Bismarck State College, a bachelor's degree in human resource management and business administration from Dickinson State University, and his law degree from the University of North Dakota School of Law in Grand Forks, North Dakota. With that, welcome Nathan, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Pat, and thank you to all of our attendees today. What a great turnout. This is a lot of fun and a great educational opportunity for all of us. As Pat said, my name is Nathan Syhovic, and I myself was a former CTE student in Watford City High School when I was a senior in that school. So the CTE program holds a special place in my heart, particularly. Now, one thing I thought was interesting is background information for what I'm presenting on is when I was looking into the child labor laws, I saw that one of the first things North Dakota did as a state was pass child labor laws in 1890. So within a year of being a state, that was one of our priorities as a state. And we can understand that because we've all seen those photos of, the children that are working in sweatshops or factories or sewing shops, and they're covered in soot. And so understandably, on the heels of the Industrial Revolution, states and the federal government started passing these protections in place to protect that kind of stuff from happening. We've come a long ways, and I think honestly a lot of where we've come, some of those laws I think employers would do regardless of whether there was a law in place or not. So one of the things that Pat brought up when we were talking about this is a lot of things that we hear is that employers are afraid to look into youth employment because of the labor department. We almost could have the cops theme song playing every time we walk in the door because it's like we're coming to get you. And my goal as labor commissioner is to change that perception of the department. We want to help employers do this. And so if there's one takeaway that all you can take from my portion today, it's that not only does the Department of Labor allow you to do this, but we encourage it, and the Federal Department of Labor as well. Next slide, please. So a brief history kind of on the FLSA. The Fair Labor Standards Act was passed in 1938, and from it stemmed these child labor laws as well. Now the department is committed to helping workers, young workers, find positive and early employment experiences that are important to their development. The FLSA was enacted when young people, and their purpose is that when young people work, the work does not jeopardize three categories: their health, their well-being, or their education. So that's always at the forefront of any of these programs that are in place. Protect the health, the well-being, as well as their educational opportunities. A couple things that I thought were important to start from the outset is what doesn't this require? What don't child labor laws require? And the first one there is require work permits. It does essentially require some sort of license, but this does not require work permits. Is essentially for agricultural workers, but generally that is still required. But it doesn't limit the hours for a number of hours a youth employee can work from 16 to 17 years old. It does not apply to any non-employment relationships. It doesn't regulate things like breaks or meal periods or any of those things. Discrimination, harassment, while those are all protected maybe elsewhere, as far as the Fair Labor Standards Act, that's not required and doesn't put any limitations really on any of those items for youth employment. Next slide, please. So this is kind of the if you want to take one page away, this would be, I think, the most helpful kind of shortcut to what are the limitations and what can you do as an employer. And you can see, starting with the 14 to 15-year-old category, there's several limitations or parameters, and it keeps getting fewer and fewer, of course, as you reach adulthood. So for 14 to 15-year-olds, they can work outside school hours, other than if they're in, figure, a CTE program, they can work during school hours, of course. They're limited during the year from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., although from June 1st to Labor Day, the hours are extended to 9 p.m. They're allowed to work. They can work 3 hours on a school day, 18 hours in a school week, 8 hours on a non-school day, and 40 hours on a non-school week. And so those are the limitations. Again, that's just for 14 to 15-year-olds. And so if you're doing those things, you're generally going to be in compliance as far as any of the hours are required from the Department of Labor. Now look how many fewer limitations we have when we get to 16 and 17-year-olds. I can tell you North Dakota has 0 limitations. The 16 to 17-year-olds under state law can go out and really do any job they want to do. However, the federal U.S. Department of Labor does not have the same freedom and flexibility. So when you're complying with these limitations, they are under federal law as it applies to those employers that are subject to the federal law. So really, not a ton more requirements, although they do say 16 to 17-year-olds can work in any position unless, and there's an asterisk next to it, it's a non-hazard. If it's a non-hazardous job, they can't work those duties. And we'll get into a little bit more about that. There's no limit on hours they can work or anything like that. And boom, we hit 18 years old. You can be, drafted for the military. You can also work wherever you want to work, however you want to work, without limitations as far as the youth employment goes. Next slide, please. So these jobs that are declared hazardous, you can see there's kind of a theme with them. And there's a list under the Federal Department of Labor on what jobs they have said are hazardous jobs. I can summarize these for you in 3 categories. They're either going to be power driven, involve heights of some sort, whether that's a roof, a ladder, or anything, or involve some sort of machinery. None of these jobs declared hazardous are, if you're berry picking in the spring on a nice spring day, that's not a hazardous job under the Department of Labor. They're all going to be these power-driven, height or machinery-related tasks or jobs. Now, the penalties can be significant for these, which is why I think it's important that employers understand what they can and can't do. Notice that at every one of these limitations, there's a little asterisk, and there was prior. That's because there's an exception. And guess what the exception is? Next slide, please. Not hard to figure out, but it's student learners and apprenticeships through a recognized program, which is exactly why we're here today and why we're covering some of these items. These are the way to allow student learners to be able to learn some of those more, as they're declared under federal law, hazardous tasks, but under a controlled environment that's educational, helpful, and it's not the entire period. And we'll get into a little bit of that. Next slide, please. So one of the 2 options is an apprenticeship. There are 5 key components to a valid apprenticeship. One, and I highlighted the key terms to take away from these. It has to be what the U.S. Department of Labor, because North Dakota doesn't declare these, it has determined as an apprenticeable trade. Hazardous work that's involved in the work or training has to be incidental to training. So it can't really be the core focus of the job. It also has to be intermittent for short periods of time. Again, you can't have an employee up on a roof 8 hours a day straight roofing during that time. There's going to have to be little mini periods of it, safety precautions, and other things. And again, the final component has to be through a registered apprenticeship program. Now, again, in North Dakota, we don't really do that. You can do that through the federal U.S. Department of Labor, but the better alternative, in my opinion, is on the next slide here. the student learners. And so very similar, back one, please. Thank you. So very similar. This has to be, to follow this compliance, you have to be enrolled in a course of study or a training program that's approved by like a CTE program in a state. We have that. There also has to be a written agreement in place. I believe CTE has that for employers available as well as the schools. And you can see the same sort of categories that this agreement says. It's going to say that the employer is going to make sure that any hazardous work is incidental to the training and the work performed by this youth employee, that it's intermittent. Another big one under this program is that it's under close supervision by someone who's experienced in that trade, so a supervisor. And safety instructions. The school has to give them, the employer has to give them in the course of doing the job and training. So they can, say, here's what you do as you're going up a ladder. Make sure you have 3 points of contact and all those safety things that you would give at any given task during some of these jobs that are quote unquote or hazardous. And then a schedule of progressive work tasks. And again, through CTE in the schools, these things are going to be outlined. They're going to be available for you. You're going to be able to work with them. And so this process really can be simplified, and it is, as long as you're navigating it appropriately. The final slide I have here is the certificates of age. These are required. Again, I think they're available through the CTE program or the schools. Key things, they're pretty self-explanatory, but a few key things that you'll want to remember is that the employer and the school coordinator or principal have to sign these. Both the school and the employer have to keep a copy of them. And when the employee's done with the program, it has to be returned to the employee. These can be revoked if they're misused and things like that. So they're essentially a license to allow this, that you have the blessing of a CTE program. And that's the way to do it. I want everyone to know that the Department of Labor is fully committed to working with employers. If you guys have questions, if you're not sure, if something comes up that you're just not feeling right about, give me a call, email me. Doors always open. I want to help you guys navigate some of these complexities with employment law. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Pat, for coordinating. And I look forward to any questions you may have at the end.
Fantastic. Great information, Nathan. I know it's not easy to summarize all the regulations necessary for employers regarding work-based learning. I echo what Nathan said about wanting these students to have a positive and early employment experience. When young people can work and not be put in jeopardy, it benefits their overall health and well-being and supplements their education. It's a win-win for employers and students. Our next speaker is Art Thompson. Art was appointed to the Director of Workforce Safety and Insurance in October of 2022. Prior to this appointment, Art served as the executive director of the North Dakota Concrete Council, where he led all aspects of the industry trade association. He previously served as a general and business manager of Wilson-based JMAC Resources, Inc. He also served as operations manager for Knife River Corporation and as a senior public relations representative for MDU Resource Group. Art grew up in Washburn, North Dakota, and earned his bachelor's degree in mass communications from Minnesota State University Moorhead and a master's degree in management from the University of Mary in Bismarck. Art, thanks for joining us today, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Pat, for that introduction. And once again, thank you all for being here this morning. As Nathan said, one of the things we wanted to be involved with in this presentation is to talk to you about just how easy it is for employers to take advantage of CTE programs and to get young workers into the North Dakota workforce. And so we, Nathan and I, hopefully will shed some information on that and share with you just what you need to do to remain in compliance and make it not so scary to step out and provide some learning opportunities for North Dakota's young workers. Next slide, please. So WSI is the exclusive employer-financed, no-fault insurance entity for the state of North Dakota. At WSI, our purpose is to care for injured workers, and our vision is a safe, secure, and healthy North Dakota workforce. And that is a workforce for all students, all people of all ages, including students. Next slide. The WSI is governed by the North Dakota Century Code, Title 65, and in it, it defines an employee as an individual who performs employment for another for remuneration unless that individual is an independent contractor under the common law test. The term employee does also include minors. And the 2 points that I'd like you to take away from this presentation here today, as far as my portion, is the fact that WSI will write workers' compensation coverage for students participating in approved apprenticeship and student learner programs. Now, if you choose to hire a minor outside of an approved apprenticeship or student learner program, then you will be subjected to the Department of Labor work restrictions that Nathan outlined just a few minutes ago, meaning that we may not be able to write coverage for a specific task if you want that student to perform some type of hazardous employment that's defined by the U.S. Department of Labor. So the best way to stay in compliance and hire young workers is to go through and hire them for an approved apprenticeship or a student learner program. Now, a couple of things at workers' compensation that we try to instill is obviously a healthy and safe workforce, and that means providing safety training for workers of all ages. And the important thing to remember is that when teenagers start working, they're out there, they're learning new skills, and they're often in an unfamiliar environment. It is the employer's legal obligation to make sure that all workers of all ages are trained on the potential hazards of the task that they're assigned to in an attempt to reduce overall injuries. Each year, North Dakota has an average of 775 claims that come through our office for workers who are 19 years old and younger. Now, many of you may be saying, wow, that seems like a lot. And I would agree that even one is too many. But on an average year, WSI processes approximately 18,000 claims. So when we look at this particular age group, that's 0.04% of all claims that come in. So it is a small number. And fortunately, most of those injuries that we do see sustained by young workers tend to be things like lacerations, strains and sprains, contusions, burns, and fractures. I also want to point out that it's this slide here is the percentage of claims by the years of service. And this isn't just for minors or student workers here. This is every age category of all of the claims that WSI receives on an annual basis. You can see that the first year an employee, regardless of whatever age they are, that is the year that they're most susceptible to sustain a workplace injury. As they get comfortable and they understand the tasks that are being assigned to them and what their job duties are, you can really see the number of claims come in. And so whether you're hiring teen workers or whether you're hiring folks that are just coming into your organization to work, really pay attention to your safety focus on those new individuals. That 1 to 4 years of service is really where we see a lot of our claims coming from. So what can you do to keep teens safe in the workplace? Obviously, you want to initiate a safety orientation program. Make sure that you're not putting them out in the workforce before they are trained and ready to go, and then check up with them frequently. Have an ongoing safety program. At WSI, we have a number of safety programs for employers that if you successfully participate in them, you can earn premium discounts for implementing safety programs and working with one of our loss control specialists that we have around the state. You want to verify that assignments and equipment restrictions are within the North Dakota Department of Labor laws, which you'll get a copy of this presentation, and Nathan so nicely summarized those just a few slides ago. And then I would encourage you to participate in WSI safety incentive programs. This will assist in the development and improvement of the safety and health of all of your workplace, and that includes workers of all ages. A couple reminders of what you can do to really instill safety in your teenage workforce is remind teens frequently to follow all safety rules and instructions. Again, remember, they're excited, they're learning a new trade, they're in an unfamiliar environment. So frequent contact and communication, and that's one of the foundations of the CTE program, is strong supervision. Also, make sure that any teen workers know that it's okay to ask for help at any time. If they don't feel comfortable doing a task or they're unfamiliar with it, they need a reminder. It's much better for them to ask than to attempt it and for them to get hurt. And the other thing, as a father of two teenagers, I know teens may not think that safety is cool. Some of the PPE that they're requested to wear or required to wear may not look cool, but remind them that safety saves lives, and there is a reason why all of these measures are put into place, and it's for their own protection and to make sure that they have a long, healthy future, and are able to take advantage of the skills that they are learning while they're with you and learning your trades. Couple of things here just to close out. On workforcesafety.com/safety, you can find information on all of the safety initiatives that WSI has to offer, and particularly we have a section on young worker safety, and it'll walk you through kind of some of the things that are requirements for young workers. They should look through that tab and familiarize themselves with that. You as an employer should look through the tab and familiarize yourself as well, and then have a conversation if you can with the parents and with the CTE coordinator, just to make sure that everybody's all on the same page and we have a positive experience. At WSI, we really hope that the CTE program and certified apprenticeship programs takes off, and we're happy to write those coverages because we fully understand that the next generation of leaders need to start somewhere, and that talent is coming from our schools. And hopefully we can work together to make this a successful experience for the student and for you as a business. With that, Pat, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Art. That was fantastic. We appreciate your expertise regarding the safety of our young people. As a reminder to all employers, if you hire minors outside of an approved program, the Department of Labor work restrictions apply. Workforce Safety and Insurance is here to help you, and they will write workers' compensation coverage for student participating in approved apprenticeship and student learner programs. We're lucky to have Art and his team, and I encourage you to lean on them for any assistance you might need as you begin designing your work-based learning program. Our next speaker is Julie Hirsch. Julie is the Career Resource Network CRN Supervisor for North Dakota Career and Technical Education. Julie graduated from Minnesota State University with a bachelor's degree in special education and North Dakota State University with a master's of education in school counseling. Julie has worked more than 30 years in education, including 15 years as a special educator and career and technical resource educator, and 13 years as a school and career counselor. Julie, welcome to our webinar, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Pat. I appreciate the introduction, and I'm so happy to see so many people join us today. This is a really exciting time for North Dakota. Like Pat said, my name is Julie Hirsch, and I'm the Career Resource Network Supervisor for the Department of CTE. So the Career Resource Network is part of the North Dakota Department of Career and Technical Education, and our mission is to develop and provide tools and resources in support of career professionals and educators. Those tools are resources that assist students in planning for their future, and one of the resources that I manage is areyourready.nd.gov. So you might want to ask, what is areyourready.nd.gov? Well, Are You Ready is a web-based career information delivery system for career and educational planning. North Dakota CTE provides Are You Ready, nd.gov to all K-12 students in North Dakota. Parents, adults, and educators also have access to Are You Ready? With the addition of the work-based learning module, it is a one-stop shop that will help North Dakota students and employers connect. So that's pretty exciting for us right now. North Dakota has a huge workforce need, and with work-based learning becoming a major movement nationally and in North Dakota, it makes sense to provide this statewide solution for students and employers. And the benefits of work-based learning extend far beyond the student and the classroom. Many employers recognize that, and that attracting and developing young talent supports our workforce development needs and helps local economies prosper. And areyouready.nd.gov will help you connect to students when you offer them key work-based learning experiences. So this is the main page of areyouready.nd.gov. Users choose their role under Who Are You? Are You Ready provides resources for everyone from elementary students to adults. So that's kind of a really nice product to provide the state of North Dakota. There is a new badge for employers, providing a link to NDCTE's business and industry webpage where they can get information on work-based learning and gain access to Golden Path Solutions to build a profile that will help them start to connect with schools and students. Patrick Manier, who will present after me, will talk more about this following my presentation. I'd like to show you around Are You Ready from the student perspective a little bit. High school students have 5 navigational tabs to choose from on the main page of Are You Ready? 4 of those tabs are planning sections with tools and content to help them build and execute their plans. The 5th tab is called Your Portfolio and helps students organize all the work and planning they have done in areyouready.nd.gov. These tabs function in order from left to right, but can be used in any order as needed. Now I'm going to focus today on the Career Planning tab. That is where students will find the activities to learn about themselves, where they can explore careers and connect to work-based learning opportunities. You'll see a number of badges under Career Planning. Under the Learn About Yourself, students discover their interests, their work values, basic skills, and suggested career clusters. While using the Explore Careers badge, students can search for careers that match their interests, goals, and plans. And under the tab Get a Job, this will include tools for resume writing and interview practice to help students prepare for the world of work. A new addition is a badge that gives students a direct link to Golden Path Solutions Compass profile to make it easier for students to locate. And of course, students will find the work-based learning module under Explore Work-Based Learning Opportunities, where they can search for and connect to work-based learning opportunities that match their interests and skills. Under that Learn About Yourself badge, you will find that it contains all of the surveys and checklists that provide students with insight into what interests them and will match them to careers. This is also another place where students can access the Compass profile. So a lot of things can be completed under the Learn About Yourself badge. This is the main page of the Compass profile. Patrick Manier will discuss this in more detail and provide employers with additional information on how it will benefit them following my presentation. When students have completed the Compass profile, this will result in a profile that connects students to the work-based learning opportunities that are offered and that match their results and interests. Next slide, please. Once students complete the Compass profile, they can choose the Explore Work-Based Learning Opportunities badge under the Career Planning tab. And when students choose the Explore Work-Based Learning Opportunities badge, they can view matching work-based learning opportunities, new work-based learning opportunities, and complete an application for a work-based learning opportunity that has been offered by an employer. This employer would have created a profile and offered this opportunity through the Compass for Employers system. And once an application is completed, the student and business are able to connect. Students can develop an electronic portfolio under the Your Portfolio badge or tab of their career exploration and planning activities. And this is the 5th tab, and this is where they can review the work they've completed in other sections of the program, upload documents, and so much more. So I want to say that it is really important to recognize that students put a lot of time and effort into building their profile in their portfolio. And once they've completed all of this work, they are invested in pursuing a career pathway that matches their interests and skills. So by providing students with work-based learning opportunities, it opens doors for them, but it also gives employers a great opportunity to influence the next generation of workers and invest in their future workforce. I'd invite you to go to cte.nd.gov/CRN for information on Are You Ready and the work-based learning module. Thank you.
Great stuff, Julie. AreYouReady.nd.gov now includes the work-based learning module and the Compass profile that CTE provides to all students and employers in North Dakota. I encourage our employers on today to take advantage of these systems that are in place. You have a huge opportunity to influence students and prepare these students for their future careers. Our next speaker will now share more about those systems. I'd like to welcome Patrick Menier. Patrick is the founder and CEO of Golden Path Solutions, a system that brings together students, employers, and schools for career exploration and workforce development. Patrick earned his BA from Minnesota State University Moorhead and has held a variety of roles since then in oil exploration, marketing, consulting, and finance before founding Blue Fire Consulting in 2012 and Golden Path Solutions in 2019. Patrick serves on several boards and advisory groups for BSC, NDSU, and the Dakota Medical Foundation, and is currently serving as the MNDAC Manufacturers Association President. Patrick resides in Fargo, North Dakota. Welcome, Patrick, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Pat, for the introduction, and thank you to all of you for joining. I'm so excited about the fact that we have so many people on this call, but also the partnership that we have with all the different speakers that you've heard so far. I will be your last one before we open it up for questions. So thank you for sticking it out. I know that an hour and a half is a lot of time to dedicate to a webinar like this. So what I'm going to talk to you about is you've heard a lot of different things about work-based learning as a program. You've heard about insurance. You've heard about how funding can work for work-based learning. But what I want to show you is how do you actually get started? What is the first step? How do you get to be part of this ecosystem that we're building in partnership with all these different groups? So like Pat said, my company, Golden Path Solutions, started working on software to help students get connected to employers and help them understand career paths that they might not have known existed, and also connect them with employers that they maybe didn't have connections with. And that work has been extended to support the work-based learning program that Wade and Dawn and Julie and CT has been driving. So the very first thing that I'm going to show you is how you create your account. The very first step that we recommend employers follow when they want to offer work-based learning or get connected with schools and students is to create your account in Compass. There's a link that you can see on the slide. This is also linked from the CTE website, from the Business and Industry website. And when you click on the link, you'll click up Sign Up Now, and then essentially you just put in your email. You'll get a verification code in your email. You'll put that back into the system, and then you will answer a series of questions about your organization and even yourself. And we've tried to make it as simple as possible. So some of the things that we want to know about your company would be like a description of what you do. You can enter information like how many years have you been in business, links to your website. And we also want to know about you. What's your contact information, your email, and your title? And once you've got your account created, then there's several different things that you as an employer can do, which I'll show you on this slide. The very first thing that we recommend every employer do is join what we call the connections database. And that is, you can see screenshots of these on the slide. The connections database is basically your way of just sharing your contact information with school professionals. So if you just want to be part of this ecosystem, maybe you're not ready to offer work-based learning yet, but you want somebody to reach out to you for career fairs or to come speak to a class, or maybe a student is really interested in a work-based learning opportunity that maybe your company could offer, but you don't have one set up yet. We'd recommend joining the Connections database. Basically, what you do is you choose the schools that you want to share your contact information with. That could include one school. It could include schools within a 20-mile radius of your company, or it could include every school that's using Compass, which right now is every school in North Dakota and some schools in Minnesota. That's the first thing, and it usually takes like about a minute to do. Work-based learning is where you can create a specific experience, and then you can share that with the schools that you choose. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on that on the next slide. We also help employers do long-term workforce development through what we call career profiles and sponsorships. A career profile is where we basically describe for a student what it's like to work at your company, what is a day in the life, what are the skills needed for success, and also whether you as an employer might be willing to help pay for a student's post-secondary education or certification, or if you're even willing to just hire somebody directly out of school. The goal here is to help students understand careers at your companies, what they might be a fit for, and help them get connected to you for more information. The last thing that you can do in Compass is you can create events. An event might be a celebration at your factory. It could be a way to bring students from the region to your location and get to know them a little bit more. The example that you can see here is Demo Days, which was done by General Equipment out in West Fargo. Basically a way to get students connected and have them operate some equipment and kind of get a feel for construction. Those are all things that you can do in Compass once you are set up. And some companies do all of these and some just do one or two of these. To set up work-based learning, all the things that we've been talking about, you basically click on create a new work-based learning opportunity. And there's some information that we require from you so that the student knows what it is that they're signing up for. And some of those things are listed on the slide. The biggest thing is just a description of what the opportunity is. What will the student be doing? We ask you to put in information about a schedule. The schedule can be things like, is it Monday through Friday? Is it only a couple hours per day, from 3 to 5? Is it over the summer? Whatever you want to put in. You can choose when you want these opportunities to be visible to students. We call those publish start and end dates. So when do they see them and when can they apply? And also you can choose the schools that you're willing to share this with. One best practice that we sometimes encourage our employers to follow is if you have multiple locations, let's say you're an equipment dealership and you've got 5 or 6 different locations. Create a work-based learning opportunity for one of your locations and share it with schools within a certain radius. And then copy that work-based learning opportunity for those other locations. So some companies might have 8 or 9 different work-based learning opportunities, one for each of their sites. And other companies, if you're doing something virtual, you might just have one, but you can extend that to students across the state. We've tried to make it super simple, and if you have questions, we have guides and user guides that you can take advantage of. So Julie mentioned in the prior segment that how we match students. I wanted to go into that in a little bit more detail. One of the required fields that we have you put in when you're creating a work-based learning opportunity are the careers that opportunity is aligned to. So let's say that you're offering a work-based learning opportunity to a student that's going to be in a shop learning about what it's like to be a diesel tech. You actually put in diesel technologist as a career that work-based learning is associated with. And then we know what the skills are that you're looking for, and we can match students to it. Students create profiles in Compass. Every student has access to this in North Dakota. And what we do is we use classes, activities, hobbies, and their personality to help them understand what their skills are. And we also use that information to match them to your opportunities that you've published. The way we do this is through something called Holland Codes that the Department of Labor manages at the federal level. We take advantage of those. And so basically we can tell a student that you'd be a great fit for this opportunity. You should learn more about it through those Holland Codes. If you're interested in learning more about Holland Codes and what those are, there's a link that you can find on the slide. And we will also be sending out all these links to you as a resource after the presentation is done. But our hope is that the students that have the skills you're looking for, the ones that are applying, having said that, we don't want to limit students to just the things that maybe they are familiar with. Part of work-based learning is also giving students the ability to explore. So you will always be able to see what the students' experiences are. You can see what their skills are, the classes they've taken, activities and hobbies. That's part of the application. And that's represented in that middle picture. That's essentially what you see as an employer when a student applies. We've also tried to build this in a way that's going to allow you to maximize the times when you're interacting with students. So many of you probably participate in career fairs. Some of you might go to schools and actually speak in front of classes. Some of you might have a partnership with a career and technical student organization like DECA or FFA. We've tried to build this in a way that you can use those opportunities to help students understand what you're offering in the system. You can see some examples of a plumbing company up in Grand Forks, Lunseth Plumbing. We actually have templates that you as an employer can use. You can put your branding on them. You can put in the opportunities that you're offering, and then you can print those out and actually bring those to career fairs and hand them out. On the other side of this flyer, there are directions for the student on how to log into Are You Ready? Log into Compass, how to take advantage of all these different things that you as the employer are putting in. So we're really trying to make this as simple as possible for students to find you and for you to communicate to students that you're investing in them and that you're offering opportunities. There are also social media templates. When you come on board and you basically post things, we can give you templates that you can use to share on your social media sites, or we will share on your behalf. Some additional resources that I want to share with you before I hand it back to Pat. We send out a monthly newsletter that just kind of highlights what's up, best practices, new features. If you want to get added to that distribution list, you can send us a note at that URL at the very top. We also, once you create an account in Compass, we will send you information about events that we're going to be at, best practices, blogs that we've posted. We just want to make sure that you're continuously getting information that helps you both connect to these students, but also help you understand how to use the system that we built. We also have social pages on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. We are using those to target employers on LinkedIn, parents and other educators on Facebook, and then actually students on Instagram. Every second and fourth Thursday of the month, we actually have a free webinar that any employer can join where we will answer any questions that you have about the application. Sometimes we have several people that join that call. Sometimes we don't have any. It's just a standing open meeting that we want employers to use if they need it. And then we are going to be at several events. We'll be talking at the Career and Technical Education Professional Development Conference in Bismarck in August, and also the ND SHRM Conference that's coming up in September. Like Pat said at the beginning, this presentation counts as SHRM credits. And from a workforce development strategy, we really want to partner with SHRM. This is just one more tool in the toolbox that we want to make sure that HR professionals understand. So that's a quick overview of Compass and how to get started. And Pat, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you so much for hosting this, and I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks, Patrick. Great info. I've watched you build out your model. Very proud of your work in partnership with CTE. For our employers on today, again, I really encourage you to take the next step and get registered as soon as possible so you can connect to over 30,000 students across the state of North Dakota and take advantage of all the great things we've talked about today. In the spirit of aligning community, schools, and industry, I'd like to take just a few minutes to make this all a bit more personal and even more relevant as it relates to opportunities around work-based learning. Real stories, real people, real impact. This is Lily Olson. Prior to my coming to Job Service North Dakota, I had the privilege to work alongside Lily and many other students to find creative ways to support, from a community perspective, recruiting, retention, and other community welcoming and integration initiatives. Our mission was simple: be involved, be the solution, and create a culture that people want to be a part of. Throughout that journey, giving students a voice was in part our pursuit of helping them to answer one key question: what do you want to be when you grow up? When Lily was faced with that question, she stated, "I want to be a social worker." "Why do you want to be a social worker, Lily?" I asked. She shared that a local employer, their daycare, opened their doors to give students work-based learning opportunities and experiences. In Lily's words, "Everyone knows that I love kids, so I was encouraged by many to pursue this opportunity, which I did." She continued, "Most of that experience was incredible, but I had one very bad day, a day that I'll never ever forget, Pat." She said, "I witnessed a small child being placed into foster care. Seeing that broke my heart. That same day, the day I got my heart broke, was also the day I got my calling. I'm going to be a social worker because I want to do everything within my ability to make sure that every child knows where they are sleeping every single night. I want every child to know that they are loved, appreciated, respected, valued, and cherished. That's why I want to be a social worker." Lily has a message for all of you here today. Please don't ever forget that high school students respond favorably to support and encouragement. Those simple gestures help them on their expedition to discover the best version of themselves. Lily will be forever grateful for her work experience and the support and encouragement she received, because it was that work experience, support, and encouragement that helped her figure out where she fits in this world. Now, I certainly understand and respect that most on this call would prefer to be the student's end game in terms of inspiring their career choices. I certainly agree with that logic. However, regardless of that outcome, I certainly hope that you all see the value, the privilege, and even the honor of being an important part of their career exploration journey. Let's talk about Peyton. Peyton, originally from the state of Wyoming. As you explore work-based learning as a talent pipeline, I think it's important to note that you can also leverage this platform to engage your employees and strengthen your workplace culture. Sharing a piece of my private industry experience, in this example, our organization worked with the high school. We conducted 10 student interviews, selecting Peyton for our work-based learning position. We developed career experiences around what it's like to be a mechanic working around and with others in a shop setting. Pictured are Peyton, AJ, the shop foreman, and Scott, the career advisor from the school, all working side by side. During all of this, we were also hiring 10 to 15 new employees per week for our organization. Most of those new employees were coming from out of state. From my perspective, recruiting and retention is all about our ability to effectively integrate and connect existing and new employees to their community. Knowing that Peyton played football, we had hats made up with the school mascot and our company logo. We showed our employees the hats. They were excited and they all wanted one. We said, you can absolutely have a hat, but to get one, you need to go to Peyton's football game. That group picture was prior to the game and at shift change for us. A lot more employees showed up throughout that evening. In that picture, we have Peyton, his mom and dad, and several of our employees. Aligning community, schools, and industry, we simply call that United We Stand. And for the record, Peyton still lives in McKenzie County, where he is very successful working as, surprise, a mechanic. I also share this story with high school students from around the state. I say to them, we need you off the bench and in the game with work-based learning. We need you to explore careers with local employers because they need you. As we build momentum, and once we get employers and students connected, I want the students to invite that employer and their employees to their games, their concert, your plays, your event, whatever it is. You can absolutely support local employers to further integrate and connect their employees and their families to your community, all while positioning them to better support you. Support, encouragement, and finding ways to bring out the best in each other. That, my friends, is a culture that people want to be a part of. So we will open up the chat here. I want to thank all of our speakers and folks coming together. Great collaboration, great partnerships. Looks like we've got just a few minutes, and we'll go to the next slide that shows our email. So obviously we want to be respectful of your time, so we can take a few questions if people want to throw them out there on the chat. For those of you that don't have the opportunity to do that, you can certainly send us an email to jsnd_webinar questions@nd.gov. We'd love to hear from you and get your feedback on this webinar. See, I'm not seeing the questions there. Contact info for Phil Davis. Phil, do you want to share your contact info real quick? And then we had another question. Will recording on this presentation be available? And people have also requested the PowerPoint. The speakers, can you guys, let's see, do hours worked during classroom time count against the 3 hours you can work during a school day? Nathan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, and the short answer is yes. To my knowledge, it does. I haven't seen anything that indicates otherwise, so I would rely on that, but I can look further into that as well if someone has that question. But yeah, good question.
Okay. The recording will be available on our site. Please watch for more information. Let's see here. So Phil shared his contact info in the chat, and PowerPoint will make that available as well, and the recording will be available. Looking for any other questions here? Well, it's 3:01, and again, we'll be respectful of your time. And again, I encourage you to send us an email at jsnd_webinar questions@nd.gov. And with that, we will close out the presentation, but super grateful for all of you showing up here today. Oh, question for Art.
All right, Pat, I'm on. What is the question?
Okay. I didn't get that. Let's see. I didn't get the question there, Art. Wait, is there a fee for companies to join the program?
No, for any of the safety programs that WSI offers, those are included in your premiums. And so I would encourage you to go to workforcesafety.com, click on the safety link. You can look at our safety management program, our safety action menu. We have a learning management system that provides 600 plus hours of safety training, different topics that you can use. And then you can find the consultant that's in your area. We have loss prevention consultants located throughout the state: Jamestown, Fargo, Grand Forks, Devils Lake, Minot, Williston, Watford City, Dickinson. And they're happy to come out. And the one thing that I would put in with our safety services is that WSI wants to be your partner. We are not OSHA. We do not have authority to come in and fine you or different things like that. So if you want just a simple walk around, one of our loss prevention specialists will come through. We will happily look at your facility, make some suggestions, all aimed at trying to keep your workforce safe. So feel free to look at that website. It also includes some safety grant programs as well, whether it's an ergonomic grant or a STEP grant. All of that information, again, workforcesafety.com. We want to be your partner, and we want to help keep North Dakota's workforce safe and healthy.
Okay, thank you, Art. Any other speakers want to take or have anything to say about some of the chats? And we will take all these questions just so everybody knows, and we'll provide a document, and we'll send that out to all our participants. So if we don't get to your question, we'll certainly answer it and distribute that to all people. So, and we hope that we get more questions through that JSND_webinar questions@nd.gov, and we'll answer those questions as well in a future document to be sent out soon. And
Pat, the only thing, there was a question too about the fees. To create your account in Compass, to offer work-based learning, to join the Connections database, there is no fee for any of that. We want every employer to take advantage of that, and we would love for employers to offer as many work-based learning opportunities as they can. There are some things that are available to employers as options for longer-term workforce development, and you can reach out to me. We'll send contact information, but there is no fee to get started offering work-based learning. I wanted to make sure that that was clear to everybody too, to get access to the system.
Well, thank you all for attending, and thank you to North Dakota SHRM for partnering up with this, and the Society of Human Resource Management. And we appreciate everyone for attending today, and we will answer those questions and distribute them out to those of you that were on this webinar. So thanks again for being with us, and we appreciate your time today. We'll end the conference.